Good morning. My name is Bokushu, and it's wonderful to see you all here in the Zendo, and those of you joining us online. I'd like to take us back to last November 5th, which was election day. I found myself in the emergency room of a New York City hospital. I was brought there by a poorly interpreted X-ray and by a panicky doctor and a panicky patient. We feared there was something really bad going on in my lungs. And so I sat under a TV blaring election returns for 5 hours, waiting to know what was going on. And they came to the wrong conclusion, kind of the right one, but not the right one. And of course, the election returns, we know how that went. So I got a lot of bad news that evening. And I've been living with that bad news ever since. And so perhaps have you, or was it good news for you? I don't presume to tell you whether it was good news or bad news, but good news and bad news are just the same thing, really. They're just suffering. They're us imposing our opinions on the world. The world is serving us all the time. And when we cling to our opinions about it, we suffer. Because as you may have noticed, I certainly have noticed, the world really doesn't give a shit what I think. It's going to do what it wants to do. Even inside my body, it's going to do what it wants to do. And my opinions don't matter to it. So the more I cling to my opinions, the more I will suffer. And that's the choice that I think brings us to this place of practice, whether here in the Village Zendo proper or online in our global community. This is what has brought us here. And a good thing too, if you ask me. So I had a lot of fear that night. And what I didn't really stop to consider, because it was just too much, was what exactly is fear? We all know what the emotion is like, but what is fear? And how does it relate, for example, to forbearance? What is the difference between fear and forbearance? In the Vimeerti Sutra, one of our foundational texts, we read, forbearance is the pure land of the bodhisattva. Do you think that fear is running away from what you don't want and forbearance is putting up with it? I don't know. I just know that there's a lot of times we can't run away. And maybe we can't put up with it either. So then what? When you need medical care, you'll forbear. As a pint of blood is taken from you while a person without a shirt screams, surrounded by police in an ER. And when you want to live, you'll forbear with whatever illness befalls you. The Vimeerti Sutra also says, good people, no person of enlightened wisdom could depend on a thing like this body. This body is like a cluster of foam, nothing you can grasp or handle. This body is like a bubble that cannot continue for long, This body is like a flame born of longing and desire, the product of error and confusion. A dream, compounded of false and empty visions. You cannot depend on it, and yet aren't we all depending on our bodies right now? So what is this really talking about? I think it's talking about the fact that, yeah, we're depending on it right now, but don't depend on it in a minute. Because who knows, right? I think of this life, we're on loan to ourselves. Is it a long-term loan or a short-term loan? It's like when you go to the library, they have those categories of how long you can keep the book. Well, we don't get that category, do we? We're long and short. It just depends. So this flame of longing and desire is the cause of our suffering, right? Again, we oppose ourselves to reality. We want what we want, and we don't want what we don't want. We want what we want when we want it. As much of it as we want. Not too much, not too little. And we don't want it, we don't. So, I mean, we've all experienced this. Maybe you're experiencing it now. It's like, what is this guy talking about? Why doesn't he shut up? Right? I mean, it goes on all the time. So, can we just compassionately observe our own suffering? That is what's on offer with this practice. So, what have 9 months of chronic illness been for me? What has that observation been like for me? What have I learned from it? I react to illness with anger. I react to a lot of things with anger, actually. But I react to illness with anger, and the anger is a cover for sorrow, sadness. Culturally, anger is approved, is it not? Don't we have an incredibly angry culture? We don't have a tradition of public grieving, do we? Not really. I mean, certain moments, we have it. But what's culturally endorsed is anger, and lots of it. So I've got that, covering my sorrow. And the sorrow covers the feeling of powerlessness. But am I powerless? Are you powerless? Is there someone to feel powerless? Underlying these feelings that I've noted for you about myself is the idea that I am a separate being, separate from all of you, separate from the doctors, the nurses, and all the people caring for me, or not caring for me, as the case may be, and that this separate being should get what it wants, when it wants it, and so on. Feelings of separation and resistance to impermanence, or in this case, the change from so-called healthy to so-called sick. These are the primary sources of suffering because we resist being connected. We resist, I mean, it sounds nice and we're all okay with being connected in principle. But are we really okay with being connected with everything? Everything, all the time. There's a lot we don't want to be connected with, right? But we're connected to everything all the time. And that's a bit much. And we don't like impermanence, because it usually brings us things we don't want to be connected to. And I hope you can see that I'm not really holding myself out as doing a better job at this than you might be. I just teach from my own issues. Take it or leave it. So what was the delusion that this whole bout of illness that continues to go on was exploding for me? And I had this crazy idea that I would be this older guy who would not get sick. You know, you've seen the magazine articles, Joe so-and-so, 98 years old, he's still living independently and doing all the things he always did, and he smoked 15 packs of cigarettes a day and, you know, had a bag of marshmallows for dinner every day and whatever. You've seen the articles. They did the right thing, they didn't do the right thing, whatever it was, they ended up being the healthy one out of 1,000 who has no problems. And that was going to be me. That was my idea. And you know, it's laughable, right? But this is what I was relying on. We all have things we lean on, right? We lean on things to get through it. And this creation I made out of whole cloth, a healthy old guy, so on and so forth, that was something I leaned on. And so, yank, that's not there anymore. That was a bit of a shock for me. And this idea that we can control our lives. We can control what happens to us. We can take actions that will determine the course of our lives, and that will all work out just as we wish. How many hours have I sat on the cushion, and yet there I was thinking that anyway? That's why we practice. It's just practice, 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 practice. Endless practice, endless opportunities to work with reality instead of opposing it. I am sure, this is my notes, so I really must read it. I am sure you're all much wiser than I am, and that you'd never fall into such a trap as I did. So, getting sick didn't make sense to me because of those preconceived ideas about how I would be. And my need to make sense of things is just a way to control them. And that is a way to try to feel safe. So maybe you have this tendency too, to want to make sense of things because that is what helps you order reality. But it just doesn't want to make sense. The most important things never make sense. And it's painful. It's really excruciating for some of us. But when we acknowledge reality, and we have compassion for the pain that it brings to us, and we understand that our own resistance to it is the source of that pain, something can shift in our experience, in our lives. And that is the skill that we are here to learn, to practice, and to take into the world. I had a similar experience 18 years ago when I first came to the Village Zendo. 2 months after coming for my first Sunday, just a day just like today for some of you, I lost my job in the financial crisis. And I'd always told myself that that job was not important. Of course, it was important in the sense that it provided me with a living and took up my days and some of my nights. But I didn't realize that it was actually a very key component of my identity. And there it went. It was unbelievably painful. This time, 18 years later, it isn't the same. It's not fun. I won't lie to you. But I understand that it is the fuel for practice, that it is teaching me. If I allow it to teach me, it will teach me how to engage more skillfully with what is actually going on, which supports me and everyone else, including the people who are giving care, the people who are billing fantastic sums to the government on my behalf, and everyone else. Our practice is not just about us. It supports, sorry, this is what I'm talking about. It supports the world. It's not just about each of us. So my suffering is less intense. But that doesn't mean I don't suffer. Just the quality and the quantity are different. That's no small thing. But it's not like I don't suffer. It's not like I'm not deluded. If only. I don't let what's happening go to waste. I use every drop of what is happening to practice. So, the origin story of this practice is the Buddha was very sheltered. His parents didn't want him to see all the bad stuff that was out there. And he slipped his leash in the middle of the night, and he went out and he saw old age, sickness, and death. Oh my God, old age, sickness, and death. Why did no one ever tell me that these things existed? And then I guess what was going on, I can't remember exactly the details, but he really wanted to make sense of it. He really wanted to do something about this terrible suffering that old age, sickness, and death was causing in himself and others. And so he went out and practiced. He studied and wandered, and my understanding of what he finally learned was that instead of changing reality, he could change himself. It's quite a radical thing, to turn it around and to stop blaming the world for one's own suffering, but to actually take responsibility for it and take steps to mitigate it, understanding that it's always going to be a work in progress. So I'm just wondering, to ask the rhetorical question, what are you depending on? What's the story that you are depending on right now, that if you were to lose that thing, you would be devastated? What is that for you? Just find it in yourself and know that that could be taken away, and that you're practicing to help you handle it a little better than you otherwise would. And that little is a great deal. Do not underestimate the importance of small things. So what I've been talking about is identity, right? We build an identity. This is me. This is how I am. This is what I believe in. This is what I stand for. This is what I represent. And the tighter you cling to that, the more you'll suffer. And I just noticed that when I lost the identity of a person who wouldn't get sick, then I started to create another identity that I'm the person who's sick. So as soon as I lost one, I started to build another. And then I kind of noticed that, and I was like, wow, that's fascinating. It's like I'm an alcoholic. I'm an identity addict. Yeah, so we can put down the bottle occasionally. In the Vimeerti Sutra, it says, this illness of mine is born of ignorance and feelings of attachment. Because all living beings are sick, therefore I am sick. If all living beings are relieved of sickness, then my sickness will be mended. The ignorance is the conviction that there is an enduring, separate self. The attachment is the clinging to that self in isolation to all the other selves and all the other things we don't like. We're ignorant because we don't fully see ourselves or what we're doing. And these identities we cling to are there supporting us silently. We don't even see them. It's like we're swimming in ourselves until suddenly the drain gets pulled and it all gets sucked away. When we see the ocean of self that we're swimming in, that we manufacture ceaselessly, what happens? In its immensity, it disappears. It can vanish in a flash. On the cushion or off the cushion, our self-obsession, our denial of reality, our suffering can vanish. There's a koan I'll just bring up briefly. It's in Book of Serenity, case 81. Shuan Sha comes to the district. When Shuan Sha came to the Pudian district, they welcomed him with 100 festivities. The next day he asked Great Elder Zhao Tong, where has all of yesterday's commotion gone? Zhao Tong held up the corner of his vestment, and Shuan Sha said, there's no connection, not by a long shot. So, where has yesterday's commotion gone? I think of it as the ER on November 5th. Or you can think of it as the election on November 5th. Where has yesterday's commotion gone? Where has something 5 minutes ago gone? Has it ever left? And Shuan Sha says in response to the gesture, sorry, it's hard to see online, this gesture, there's no connection, not by a long shot. If you haven't worked with koans, all of this is a bit much to take in. But basically, these two are having a very living dialogue about the truth of time and space. Where has yesterday's commotion gone? What is the truth of time and space? And how does it relate to you right now? Isn't it amazing that we can have the opportunity to contemplate that? How wonderful that we can contemplate that together, worldwide. I personally feel that this gesture, this turning over of the vestment, is a bit weak. I don't want to try to interpret it intellectually for you. But it reminds me of another koan where there are two people competing to lead a new monastery. And one of them gives the answer, I forget the setup, but there's a clog involved, and one of them says, it's not, oh yes, that's right, it's a pitcher. It's a pitcher. And one of them says, it's not a wooden sandal. Okay, a pitcher's not a wooden sandal, thanks for telling me that. It's sort of weak, right? It's kind of like this. And the other one, who was in this kind of competition, he runs up and kicks the pitcher over, just smashes it with his foot. Really brazen, aggressive, dynamic gesture. Quite shocking, I'm sure, to those who were present. I really feel that this question of where yesterday's commotion has gone has to be lived experientially with as much energy as we can muster. Where has yesterday's commotion gone? The ER is right here. We are all in intensive care, and we're providing it to each other right now. Our presence here together is caring for the world and ourselves, and we are not separate from the world. So in the commentary to this koan, Swan Shah is quoted when he injured his toe. He injured his toe, apparently. And he said on that occasion, "This body is not existent. Where does the pain come from? This body, this pain, is ultimately without origin. Stop, stop. Bodhidharma did not come to China. The second patriarch didn't go to India." He was really working with himself, and also pretty confused, if you ask me. I don't know. You stub your toe, you just stub your toe. Why bring Bodhidharma or China into it? It hurts, right? It brings you right back to where you are. It's actually quite a blessing. So I'm going to close by reading the verse that goes with this koan. Hiding the boat in the night valley, setting the oar on the clear source. The dragon and fish don't know the water is their life. Busting a gut, nevertheless, it's just a little shake. Master Xuan Sha, Elder Zhao Ting, box and lid, arrow points, probing pole shadowing grass. Submerged, withdrawn, the old turtle nests in the lotuses. Frolicking, the multicolored fish plays in the water grasses. Let's frolic with the truth of our own experience moment by moment and appreciate the richness of what we have on offer to practice with. Thank you.